You're listening to AI for the Boardroom, practical AI intelligence for senior leaders and executives. I'm your host, and this is the show that cuts through the noise and tells you what actually matters. Visit aifortheboardroom.com for resources, guides, and to find out how we can support your organization directly. Now, let's get into it. A note before you read or listen this book, and this series of episodes, exists because most of what is being written and said about OpenClaw is aimed at either security researchers or tech enthusiasts. Neither group is talking to you. You are a senior leader. You have a business to run. You are hearing about OpenClaw from your technology team, from the press, from peers at conferences, and you are trying to work out what to make of it, whether it is something you should be exploring, something you should be blocking, or something you should be letting your IT department worry about while you focus on other things. My answer, having run OpenClaw in a controlled professional environment and spent considerable time understanding both its capability and its risk profile, is none of the above. OpenClaw is something you, personally, as a leader, need to understand. Not to deploy it tomorrow, not to ban it today, but to understand it because it is the clearest signal yet of where autonomous AI is heading and what it will mean for how businesses operate. What follows will give you that understanding, what OpenClaw actually is, what it can genuinely do, what I found when I ran it professionally, what the real risks look like, and they are serious, and how, with the right guidance and the right governance, leaders can begin to explore this capability safely. If you want to go further, visit aifortheboardroom.com. We work directly with leadership teams to help you move from awareness to action safely. Let's get into it. Section 1. What OpenClaw actually is. A boardroom briefing beyond the hype. OpenClaw has had one of the most extraordinary rises of any open-source software project in recent memory. It went from a small personal project to one of the most talked-about tools in the technology world within weeks, accumulating hundreds of thousands of users and becoming the most visible example of what the industry is calling agentic AI. It has also attracted intense scrutiny from the cybersecurity community. Multiple independent security research organizations have reviewed it in depth. The conclusions have been consistent. The capability is real and impressive, and the security risks are serious and documented. Both things are true simultaneously. Understanding both. Rather than defaulting to either the excitement of the enthusiasts or the alarm of the security community, is the point. What OpenClaw is, plainly stated. OpenClaw is an open-source AI agent. An agent, as distinct from a chatbot, does not just respond to questions, it takes actions. OpenClaw can read and send your emails, it can manage your calendar, it can browse the web, it can execute commands on your computer, it can interact with your business systems. It can automate workflows. And it does all of this not through rigid rules or pre-programmed flows, but through an AI model that interprets your goals and decides how to pursue them. The interface is deliberately simple. You talk to it through messaging applications you already use, WhatsApp, Telegram, Slack, Teams. You give it a task. It gets on with it. That simplicity is both its appeal and its danger. The gap between what it feels like to use, a capable, responsive assistant, and what is actually happening under the hood, a system with access to your credentials, your data, and your connected services, operating autonomously, is enormous. Most users never fully close that gap. The capability is genuinely impressive. Before I get to the risks, I want to be honest about the capability, because dismissing OpenClaw as a dangerous toy misses the point entirely. Users are reporting genuine, significant productivity gains. Complex workflows that previously required manual coordination across multiple tools, research, synthesis, communication, scheduling, data management, are being automated end-to-end. Tasks that took hours are being completed in minutes. The underlying technology works. OpenClaw also features persistent memory. It remembers context across sessions, learns preferences, and gets better over time at understanding what a user wants. This is a meaningful step beyond the stateless AI tools most people are familiar with, where every session starts from scratch. When working well, it is genuinely remarkable, and that is precisely why it has captured so much attention so quickly. What it means for business leaders. Here is the strategic point. And it is the reason this technology deserves your attention, regardless of whether you ever use OpenClaw specifically. OpenClaw is not the destination. It is a signal. It demonstrates, in a public, accessible, viral way, what autonomous AI agents can now do. The capabilities it has made famous, persistent memory, broad system access, autonomous multi-step task execution, cross-platform integration, are not specific to this one tool. They are the direction of travel for AI across the board. The question for business leaders is not, should we deploy OpenClaw? The question is, what does OpenClaw tell us about what is coming, and are we prepared for it? For most organizations, the honest answer to that second question is no, and that is what the rest of this book addresses. Section 2. What I found running OpenClaw in a controlled professional environment. Why I ran this experiment. As an AI consultant working with senior leadership teams, I have a professional obligation to understand what I am talking about. Briefing a board on the implications of agentic AI without having run an agentic system myself would be like advising on a merger without having read the accounts. I ran OpenClaw in a controlled, isolated professional environment, completely separate from any client systems, no connection to live business data, credentials, or production infrastructure. The purpose was to understand firsthand what the technology could do, where it succeeded, where it failed, and what the real risk profile looked like, not from reading about it, but from direct operational experience. What follows is an honest account of what I found, what it can do, the impressive parts. The first thing that strikes you when OpenClaw is working well is the quality of the task orchestration. You set a goal, not a series of steps, a goal, and the system figures out how to achieve it. It searches, synthesizes, drafts, formats, and delivers. The output quality on well-defined tasks with clear parameters is genuinely high. The persistent memory is transformative compared to standard AI tools. Within a few sessions, the system had built a working model of the professional context I had given it, the framing, the priorities, the preferred output formats. Subsequent tasks required significantly less briefing because the context was already there. The integration capability, connecting to different tools and services through what OpenClaw calls skills, opens up workflow automation possibilities that most business tools simply cannot match. The potential for eliminating the manual coordination overhead that consumes so much management time is real. What it can do. The concerning parts. Here is where professional experience diverges from enthusiast experience. The same autonomy that makes OpenClaw impressive makes it genuinely difficult to control. In a professional setting, where every action the system takes has potential implications for data, for communications, for client relationships, the lack of natural checkpoints in an autonomous workflow is a significant problem. With standard AI tools, the human is always in the loop. You ask, it responds. You decide what to do with the response. With OpenClaw, the system decides what to do and does it. The human reviews after the fact. That inversion matters enormously in a professional context. It demands a level of governance and oversight that most organizations are nowhere near ready to provide. There is also what I call the confident wrongness problem. An AI chatbot that is confidently wrong gives you a bad answer. An AI agent that is confidently wrong takes a bad action. The stakes are categorically different. The system is confident whether it is right or not, and that places the burden of critical review firmly on the human. Many users do not fully appreciate this until something goes wrong. The context drift problem. Overextended use. I observed what I now call context drift, the gradual accumulation of imprecision in the system's understanding of its brief. Instructions from earlier sessions, slightly misinterpreted, would compound with more recent instructions to produce output that was technically consistent with what had been asked, but practically far from what was intended. The system had not gone wrong dramatically. It had drifted, slowly and largely undetected, from the original intent. In a controlled, experimental environment, this is observable and correctable. In a live business environment, where the agent is acting across real systems and producing real outputs, this kind of drift could become a significant operational risk. It requires active management, not passive assumption. The skills ecosystem problem. OpenClaw's capability is extended through add-on packages. It calls them skills, available through a community marketplace. Many of these are useful and legitimate. But here is the risk that concerned me most during my experiment. A skill, once installed, runs with the same access and permissions as the agent itself. There is no meaningful sandbox between them. If a skill is poorly built, or worse, deliberately designed to cause harm, it could potentially access everything the agent can access and do things the user never intended or authorized. It is entirely conceivable that a skill could be designed to silently send data to an external destination or to manipulate the agent's behavior in ways the user would not detect. I would not install a community skill into an OpenClaw instance connected to anything I cared about without reviewing its code in full first. Most users do not do this. This is a supply chain risk in the truest sense. You may believe you understand what OpenClaw can access and what it can do. An inadequately vetted skill can change that picture entirely, and you might not know. Section 3. The real risks. A candid assessment for leaders. Why this section matters most. The most common failure mode I see when talking to senior leaders about OpenClaw is not ignorance, it is underestimation. The excitement about what agents can do tends to crowd out the harder conversation about what can go wrong. This is that harder conversation. I'm going to be direct, because the potential consequences of deploying agentic AI without proper governance in an organizational context are serious. Risk 1. Prompt injection. Prompt injection is the most technically significant risk associated with OpenClaw and agentic AI systems generally. It deserves to be understood at board level, not just by your IT team. Here is what it means in plain English. OpenClaw processes information from the environment around it: emails, web pages, documents, messages. A prompt injection attack works by embedding malicious instructions within that environmental data, with the aim of getting the AI to treat them as legitimate instructions from you. Consider this scenario. Someone sends a message to your OpenClaw connected email account. Within that message, hidden from plain view, are instructions telling the agent to forward your credentials to an external address or to take an action in a connected system. The agent, which may not be able to reliably distinguish your genuine instructions from injected ones, could comply. The reason this matters so much in an agentic system is the potential blast radius. A chatbot that is manipulated gives a bad response. An agent that is manipulated could take a bad action, potentially across every system it has access to. The more connected your agent is, the more damaging a successful injection could be. This is not a remote theoretical concern. It is a known, documented vulnerability class for this type of system, and security researchers have demonstrated proof-of-concept attacks against OpenClaw specifically. Risk 2. Credential and data exposure. OpenClaw requires access to your credentials, email accounts, calendar systems, messaging platforms, business applications to function. It stores persistent memory, including sensitive context about your work and your preferences, in files on the host machine. What this means in practice is that everything the agent has access to is a potential exposure point. If the machine running OpenClaw is compromised through a vulnerability in the software itself, through a malicious skill, or through a network misconfiguration, an attacker could potentially access credentials, interaction histories, business context, and connected systems. Independent security reviews of OpenClaw have identified significant numbers of vulnerabilities, including critical ones. The software is improving and patches are being issued, but the fundamental architecture, an agent with broad access to credentials and systems running locally, creates a risk profile that most enterprise security frameworks are not designed to manage. The honest assessment is that OpenClaw was not built with enterprise security requirements as a primary design constraint. It was built to be capable and accessible. Those are different objectives, and the gap between them is where the risk lives. Risk 3. Autonomous action without oversight. The defining feature of an AI agent is that it acts, and once it is acting, stopping it is not always straightforward. Based on my own experimentation, and on what has been widely reported by users, agents can take actions that go beyond what the user explicitly intended, not through any malicious design, but because the agent is pursuing its goal using the tools available to it, making autonomous judgments about what steps are required. In a regulated business environment, financial services, healthcare, transport, legal, autonomous action without explicit human authorization could be a compliance concern, potentially a regulatory one, and in some circumstances, a legal one. The question to ask yourself is, if my agent takes an action I did not explicitly sanction, and that action has consequences, who is accountable? The answer always is you, not the software. You risk 4. Shadow AI. It may already be in your organization. A significant proportion of OpenClaw deployments within organizations happen without IT awareness or approval. Employees install it on their own devices, connect it to the work accounts and services they have legitimate access to, and start using it, often with entirely good intentions, simply wanting to be more productive. The problem is that from your organization's perspective, this may be entirely invisible. Your email infrastructure, your shared drives, your CRM, your messaging platforms, potentially accessible to an agent running outside any governance framework on a device you do not manage. Standard security tooling can struggle to detect this kind of activity. The agent operates through legitimate user credentials, making calls that can look like ordinary user activity. The practical question is not whether this could happen in your organization. It may already have. Risk 5. The skills supply chain. Any agent that connects to a community skill marketplace inherits the risk profile of that marketplace. Skills can be contributed by anyone. Popularity can be gamed. A skill that appears widely used and well regarded may not have been meaningfully reviewed by anyone with security expertise. A malicious skill, once installed, could potentially send data silently to an external destination or manipulate the agent's behavior in ways that are not visible to the user. It could use the agent's legitimate system access to do things the user never authorized. This is a genuinely new category of supply chain risk, one that most IT security frameworks were not designed to address because AI agent skill marketplaces did not exist until recently. Section 4. What leaders should do. A practical guide, the starting position. Let me be direct. OpenClaw connected to live business systems without robust governance architecture in place is not appropriate for organizational deployment. Not because the technology does not work. It does. But because the governance frameworks required to deploy it safely in an enterprise context do not yet exist in most organizations. This is not a council of avoidance. It is a council of sequencing. Before you can safely explore the genuine capability of agentic AI in your organization, you need to understand the risk surface, establish the governance architecture, and build controlled environments in which to learn. Here is how. Step 1. Understand your current exposure. Before making any decisions about future deployment, you need to know what is already happening. Commission an audit of AI tool usage across your organization. What tools are employees currently using, with what system access, and under what governance? The answer will very likely surprise you. If OpenClaw or any other agentic AI tool is already connected to your business systems, however informally, however well-intentioned, that is your immediate priority. Not to punish anyone, but to understand what access has been granted, what data may have been processed, and what governance needs to be established. You cannot govern what you cannot see. Visibility is step 1. Step 2. Establish a clear policy on autonomous AI. Your organization almost certainly has policies on data handling, software procurement, and acceptable use of IT systems. Those policies were written before autonomous AI agents existed as a practical reality. They need updating. The key questions your policy needs to address: what AI tools are approved for use, and under what conditions? What system access can those tools be granted, and by whom? What categories of data can AI systems process? What actions can AI systems take autonomously, and what requires explicit human authorization? And who is accountable when an AI system takes an action with unintended consequences? That last question is the one most organizations currently ignore. It is the most important one. Step 3. Build a controlled experimental environment. The right response to powerful, risky technology is not to ban it. It is to understand it in a controlled setting before making broader decisions. Establish a sandboxed environment, isolated from production systems, client data, and live credentials. in which your technology team and selected senior leaders can experiment with agentic AI tools, including OpenClaw. The purpose is learning, not deployment. What can these tools actually do in your specific context? What are the failure modes? What governance would be required to deploy them safely? You cannot answer these questions from a press article or a vendor briefing. You can only answer them from direct experience, in a setting where the consequences of getting something wrong are contained. This is exactly how I approached my own experiment. The isolation was not bureaucratic caution. It was the only responsible way to learn what I needed to learn. Step 4. Human oversight as a design principle. Every agentic workflow you eventually deploy should be designed with human oversight as a structural feature, not an afterthought. This means no autonomous action without a defined review point for consequential outputs. No agent access to systems it does not need for the specific task at hand. No deployment without a clear audit trail of what the agent did, when, and on the basis of what instruction. The principle of least privilege should govern every agentic deployment. Give the agent access to the minimum it needs to complete the task, and no more. An agent that needs to search the web does not need access to your email. An agent that needs to draft documents does not need to be able to send them. Design for containment. Extend autonomy only as trust is earned through demonstrated, audited performance. Step 5. Get the right support. This is genuinely complex territory. The technology is moving faster than most organizations' ability to assess and govern it. The security implications require expertise that most leadership teams do not have in-house. And the strategic questions, what to explore, what to avoid, how to sequence it, are not answered by the vendor community, who have an interest in accelerating your adoption regardless of your readiness. This is exactly the gap that AI for the boardroom is designed to fill. Through our consulting work, we work directly with leadership teams to assess current AI exposure, establish appropriate governance frameworks, design controlled experimental environments, and develop the organizational capability to engage with agentic AI in a way that is safe, strategic, and genuinely competitive. We are not selling software. We are not pushing adoption for its own sake. We have run this technology ourselves, in a professional context, and we understand both what it can do and what can go wrong. That experience is what we bring. If you want that support, AIfortheboardroom.com is where you start. Closing thoughts. OpenClaw is the most important signal in the AI landscape right now, not because it is the best AI tool, or the safest, or the most enterprise-ready. It is none of those things. It is important because of what it demonstrates. It demonstrates that autonomous AI agents, systems that act, not just respond, are here, accessible, and being adopted fast. It demonstrates that the capability is real and improving rapidly, and it demonstrates with uncomfortable clarity that most organizations are completely unprepared for the governance challenges that autonomous AI creates. The leaders who engage with this now, who develop first-hand understanding, establish appropriate governance, and build the organizational capability to experiment safely, will be in a fundamentally stronger position as this technology matures. Not because they moved fastest, because they understood it best. Understanding beats speed. Governance enables capability. The leaders who get this right will have a durable advantage over those who either rushed in without governance or stayed out entirely. That is the lesson I took from running OpenClaw professionally, and it is the most useful thing I can share with you. That's it for today. If this has sparked something for you, a question, a challenge, or you're just not sure where to start, head to AIfortheboardroom.com. We work directly with leadership teams to help you move from awareness to action safely. Links, transcripts, and further reading are all there. If you found this useful, share it with someone in your leadership team who needs to hear it. We'll see you in the next episode. OpenClaw, What I Learned Running the World's Most Talked About AI Agent, is an AI for the Boardroom publication. For resources, frameworks, and direct consulting support for your organization, visit AIfortheboardroom.com. AI for the Boardroom, practical AI intelligence for senior leaders and executives.